All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 116. And today, I am frustrated and I must rant. And I need a drink. Water. All right, so today, I have a buddy. They stream on the Twitches. They have a very, very awesome, amazing community. Buddy started streaming D&D on Twitch. And everyone in chat is like, man, I wish I could play D&D. And I mentioned, well, if you want to, like, there's enough people in this community, we can totally get a D&D program going. Like, that's not that hard. And I've got adventures from the Adventures League for years. Like, we could run a program like this for years without having to come up with anything on our own. And so I took a few months to recruit a couple DMs from the community and get everything started. But because of my health, I can't. I couldn't run it myself or anything like that. My even the brief amount of time that I spent kind of getting everything set up really drained the hell out of me. So I stepped back and I said, okay, you guys have everything that you need. I'm just going to let you guys run it. And it kind of died, as things like that do for a million different reasons. That's not why I'm upset. I'm upset. Year passes, nothing's going on. I try to get the program back up and running, but my DMs don't want to DM anymore. I try to bring in some new DMs, but they have scheduling conflicts. It's just not going to happen right now. I'm not giving up on this thing, but it's not happening right now. Again, not why I'm frustrated. One of the ideas that I had for something fun for this group goes back to the D&D Adventures League back when it was still referred to as D&D Encounters. And a long time ago, when the Earth was new, there was a program called D&D Encounters. D&D Encounters was effectively Wednesday night D&D. They were designed to be played on Wednesday nights, and very similar. The reason I call it Wednesday night D&D is there's a program that has existed longer than D&D Encounters called Friday Night Magic. And what it is on Friday nights, people go to their local game stores and they play Magic the Gathering. And Wizards of the Coast has supported this, giving them events and other cool stuff and prizes and stuff that they can hand out to their players. So, Encounters was Wednesday night D&D. And it started during 4th edition. And the way that Encounters was designed was it was designed for new players or people that just didn't have the time to do like a full campaign or anything like that. It was designed to be drop in, drop out, meaning anyone could come to the store, sit down at a table and play, leave, not show up for like 4 weeks, come back and play again. And so what they had is they had these seasons where basically what would happen is each adventure was designed to be run in about 2 to 3 hours, which is perfect for sorry, I heard someone moving upstairs. It's perfect for a game store. And they would be designed to have at least one kind of role-playing encounter or something non-combat, and then one combat encounter, so that everyone can get a good feel for it. And so each season was kind of a connected story of like 3 to 4 adventures. Um, and a lot of them are really, really cool. You can still get a lot of them on like the DM's Guild and stuff like that. They're real fun adventures. Well, when D&D Next was reaching its end and it was getting closer and closer to uh, 5th edition getting launched, the Encounters program started to shift and started publishing adventures that were no longer, here's a little role playing adventure and 1 combat encounter. There, you're done. These were designed to be a little bit more intense, and they were designed to be played either in 4th edition or in the new D&D, whatever the latest D&D Next playtest packet was. And I fought against going D&D Next. Like, I fought for a long time going, no, we play 4th edition here. But I finally had to give up because the players wanted to play D&D Next. I think the first one of these new adventures they did was called Murder in Baldur's Gate. And the cool thing about it was it basically served as an epilogue to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. In Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you play, slight spoilers for games that are like 30 years old, but in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you play a character that is what's known as a Bahal spawn. Bahal's the god of murder. He died during the time of troubles, if I remember correctly. And so before he died, he went around and just had sex with everything. Absolutely everything. And he got all these different women pregnant, and he put little pieces of his like being into each one of these offspring, which are called the Bahal spawn. And so the plot of Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 was effectively kind of I can't think of the Highlander. Very Highlander-esque. If there could be only one, the Bahal spawn would eventually feel this kind of bloodlust and long for murder, and they would go out and start murdering things, and they'd eventually kind of all come together, and whoever was the final one, Bahal would use them as his avatar and be reborn, because he was dead at this point. Well, the ending of Baldur's Gate 2, the Bahal spawn is able to, the main character is able to kind of stop himself, or at least the canon ending, stop himself from becoming the avatar of murder, and eventually goes on to join the Flaming Fist, which is a mercenary type group in Baldur's Gate, and he becomes a Duke actually. And there's a novelization of the of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and they name the character Abdel Adrian. So Murder in Baldur's Gate involves a very old Abdel Adrian, because due to the fact that he had part of a god in himself, he got to like 120 or something like that. So years and years and years and years have passed since the Baldur's Gate series. And so Murder in Baldur's Gate was basically this kind of one-shot where you basically get to deal with a final push of Bahal to be reborn. And then after that, I can't remember, I think there was one other adventure in between them, but if I remember correctly, the final adventure that they wrote for the Encounters program before it transformed into the D&D Adventures League in 5th edition launched, was an adventure called Dead in Thay. And this is what I must rant about, because it was a massively cool adventure. And I've kind of come up with a way to run it in a D&D program thing, kind of like what I set up for my buddy. And right now I can't. And that's frustrating. But let's talk about Dead and Thay. So, thing about Dead and Thay. The basic idea of Dead and Thay is there is a Red Wizard of Thay who is doing some bad stuff. I believe they're full lich. And they're doing some bad stuff in this place called the Doom Vault. And so when it was run in store, what would happen is the store would be given this giant poster map, which I think I still have somewhere. It's probably in a box somewhere, because this happened long before we moved. I think this happened before I moved back in with my parents. So anyway, it had this massive poster map of the Doom Vault, and the Doom Vault was, for lack of a better term, it was a mega dungeon. It was absolutely massive, and the unique thing about Dead and Thay was, unlike every other D&D Encounters program, and to be perfectly honest, for the Adventures League as well, normally what would happen is when you went in, each group would be running their own adventure, but it would be their version of the adventure. Like, you might have everybody running the same adventure, which often happened as Adventures League titles go. And for Encounters, it was the same adventure at every single table. Dead and Thay wasn't like that. The Mega Dungeon was so huge that it's actually chopped up into smaller pieces. And what would happen every night is each different table would be given a different section of the Doom Vault to go and explore, with the goal of closing a portal in that section. And once you closed enough of the portals, you could eventually get to the final boss fight, which we'll talk about in a second here. But it was massively cool. And so the interesting thing about Dead and Thay was it was basically they at conventions they have these special types of adventures called epics. And what epics are is they are multi-table adventures. And the first epic I am aware of actually happened at Gen Con. And I actually got to play in it too. But effectively, everyone was at Candlekeep. And it gets attacked by a massive Dracolich. And so each different table is given a different part of Candlekeep to protect. And then the kind of final battle of that adventure is this massive Dracolich basically flies around the entire room and lands in front of each group. And then they get a few turns to try and kill the Dracolich, and then it flies away and you have to deal with its minions. But basically, all these different tables have to actually work together to kill this Dracolich. And the hit points of the Dracolich are tracked as it hops between tables. It's a really, really cool experience. Effectively, that's what Dead and Thay was it was an epic encounter where each different group had their own thing that they had to focus on. If they did well, then it would help everybody. And if they did poorly, then it wouldn't help everybody. And so after enough different groups were able to tackle their different sections, or what generally did happen was, 1 week you guys would go in these two separate areas, and you'd finish that, and then the next week the same groups would go in these two areas, and so you just keep going back to the Doom Vault until you had enough of these portals closed. And then you get to the final fight, which happens on a tetrahedron, a pyramid, where each face has its own gravity. And so a maximum of four? How many? How many faces does a pyramid have? Is it 4? Yeah, because the bottom's a square. Well, this one, every face is a triangle. So I don't know if that is a tetrahedron or not. But anyways, it's a three-dimensional polygon. And so, yeah, I believe there's a grand total of 4 faces. Yeah. So you can have up to 4 groups all simultaneously fighting this lich. And again, each group has other things that they have to do on their face. And it's a really amazing, incredible adventure. Probably one of the best encounters, Adventures League, whatever you want to call it, Wednesday night D&D adventures that they've ever done, because you felt like everything about it was just really, really epic. Well, fast forward a few years, there's a book that comes out called Tales from the Yawning Portal. Tales from the Yawning Portal is an anthology, which is something that 5th edition has done over and over and over again. And most of the anthologies, not, I guess maybe like half the anthologies, are just updating old adventures into 5th edition. And Tales from the Yawning Portal absolutely does that. You have White Plume Mountains, which is a classic 1st edition D&D adventure. You've got the Tomb of Horrors. Everybody knows the Tomb of Horrors. The Hidden Shrine of Tamoakan. Forge of Fury, the Sunless Forge of Fury, and the Sunless Citadel, and then Against the Giants, which I believe is a 2nd edition of adventure, but I might be wrong. These are all super, super classic, really, really well-known adventures. But the other thing that they updated for 5th edition is Dead and Thay. It exists in Tales from the Yawning Portal. And it's actually designed for Tales in the Yawning Portal. It's not designed for multiple groups. It's designed for a single adventure, kind of similar to how like Temple of Elemental Evil is this giant mega dungeon that's designed for you to just keep going in and coming out and going in and coming out. That's basically how they kind of rewrote it so a single adventuring party could actually do the entire adventure. However, I still own the old Dead and Thay module, which isn't great. Again, it's technically made for D&D Next, and it's not really great, but it still has kind of the instructions on how to do it as a multi-table event. And I own the modern version, which is just a lot smoother and a lot easier to run in general. And so I had been, I mean, not really putting a lot of effort into it, but mostly just, lying in bed, unable to sleep, going, well, what if I did this and this and this? And I'd come up with a really cool idea for how we could run Dead and Thay, and even came up with a way how we could run, because this particular D&D program I made was all done remotely. No one had to be in the same area. And so for like multi-table adventures, run it at a convention, you run it at a game store, it's really easy to do multi-table adventures because they're all right there. So anything that happens that affects a different table, you can just tell the person that's walking around being the super dungeon master, the one that's kind of overseeing everything, and it works fine. Doing it remotely makes it significantly more difficult, but I'd come up with some ways to do it. So yeah, if I ever get this program up running, or if I come up with my own program to run, that is something that I want to do. I figured out how to do it with Dead and Thay. I also had figured out a way to do the original Temple of Elemental Evil using a 5th edition conversion of it. So that, again, you could have these kind of multi-table runs into the Temple of Elemental Evil. Because I think that would be super, super fun. And I'm just frustrated that it can't be a thing right now. Yeah, not frustrated anyone involved. It's all the reasons why people can't do this stuff, completely legitimate. I have no hard feelings against these people. But this is something that just seems really, really cool and really, really fun. And it's something I would love to do. I just don't have a group to do it with. So, yeah. check out Dead and Thay. Like I said, it's in Tales from the Yawning Portal. The Tales from the Yawning Portal is a fantastic thing. Like I said, the adventures in there. White Plume Mountain is seriously an amazing adventure. The Tomb of Horrors is your classic. Oh, you think you're good at D&D? Okay. You know, the fun fact about Tomb of Horrors, not only was it written because I believe it was Gygax that wrote it, right? Anyway, not only was it written because the players are going, yeah, you know, all this stuff is too easy. He's like, okay, here's something hard. But if I remember correctly, it was also written as a competitive module. Years and years and years and years and years ago. They would write and create competitive D&D modules where basically you would get points depending on what things you did, how fast you were able to complete it, and other things like how many characters died and stuff like that. And I think Tomb of Horrors was one of the early versions of that, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, my memory is not great, so I might be thinking of something else, but I actually, during 4th edition, I actually played a competitive module. It was part of a group of adventures called 4th Core, which was pitched as like D&D hard mode. But basically what it was these really, really difficult encounters that were very strictly timed. And depending on what you did in the module and how far you got and whether you completed it or not, you would get a number of points. And then whoever got the most points during the convention would get a prize. So yeah. They don't really do that anymore, which is upsetting to me because I really, really... Like, the closest we get to competitive D&D anymore is the epics. And they're not really competitive, they're cooperative. And they're tons of fun. When they're done right, they are unbelievably fun. I've played in a couple different epics, and they are just absolutely incredibly fun. But the idea of competitive D&D, I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. It's a lot of work because you have to make sure that everybody is getting the same challenge, which means all the DMs have to be on the same page and understand what they can and can't do. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway, yeah, pick up Tales from the Yawning Portal. Check out Dead and Thay. Check out the other stuff in there too. Like I said, Sunless Citadel is pretty good. If I remember correctly, that was a 2nd edition adventure. White Plume Mountains was classic. Tomb of Horrors was classic. I mean, 1st edition. Tomb of Horrors was 1st edition. I want to say the Hidden Shrine of Tamoakan was 1st or 2nd edition, and then I could not tell you what the Forge of Fury was. And then Against the Giants was another like really, really classic adventure. It was a grouping of adventures, and they were awesome. So yeah, Tales from the Yawning Portal is crazy good value if you want just kind of a lot of really, really good. In fact, remember how I had a series that I did where I talked about old adventures and what you can learn from them? White Plume Mountains and Against the Giants were 2 of the adventures I was planning. And I may still, I was thinking about covering in that, because again, they have stood the test of time. So, yeah, like I said, this is a really cool idea, and I can't do it for a number of reasons, and it frustrates me. So, that's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right. Bye-bye.